Welcome. This is Nicodemus, and this is On the Red Carpet. Here at the Inner Circle, we have these interviews where we highlight, we spotlight some great independent games, whether they're out right now or they are upcoming. And so tonight we want to give a spotlight, just shine a special spotlight on a game called Anew, The Distant Light. You get it? Spotlight. Distant Light. Okay. Glad you guys get my pun. I like that. So I'm here today with our special guest, Jeff Spoonhower, and please correct me if I'm butchering your last name because I'm horrible with names.
You got it.
I got it. Awesome. So Jeff Spoonhower, who is one of the developers / owners of Resonator games. He's going to come here today and talk to us about this upcoming great looking game. You guys probably have seen it on our website. We did indie spotlight on it, and we've highlighted it on our channel, on my personal YouTube channel as well. So a lot of coverage has been put out by the Inner Circle for this game. So you probably are familiar with it if you follow us. Also, besides Jeff, I have Kevin, who is one of the co-hosts for the Trophy Life podcast, here with us today. Tell everybody what's up, Kevin.
Hey everybody, I'm really excited to get into this game anew. So why don't we get into talking with Jeff?
Let's get it started.
Cool. All right.
So Jeff, Anew, The Distant Light. Can you tell us, our viewers, a little bit about the game, just in case they haven't heard of it?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. And thanks again for having me on the show too. It's fun to be here. Absolutely. Yep. So our game is called Anew, The Distant Light, and my development partner Steve Copeland and I were making an open world action exploration game. So a word that we use, that's kind of thrown around in the industry a lot, Metroidvania, right? Is a word that a lot of people. It's kind of a nerdy term, but it does work. People understand that term. So, but it's a sci-fi sort of 2.5D side-scrolling sci-fi game. And the premise of the game, the story setup is, and it's all kind of set up right in the opening cinematic of the game. So there's no spoilers or anything here. But you see that the Earth, the bottom half of the Earth has sort of been blown off, and you are a little baby. And a little infant, newborn baby, and you're loaded onto a spaceship and you're sent out 20 light years on this journey into deep space. And you wake up, you land on this very strange alien moon as a 20-year-old, as an adolescent. And you don't really know why you're there. You don't know who you are. Your co-pilot on the mission is missing. So there's kind of a couple layers to the story that you're trying to unravel as you exit your ship and sort of explore this really weird, unfamiliar alien landscape, and lots of really responsive animation with the character. We're going to be doing some new things to this sort of Super Metroid genre. We have a sort of a real-time day-night cycle with weather that affects gameplay. So, if you're roaming around on the surface of the moon, there's this huge sun that will come up and it'll start baking you if you stay out too long. So you have to get under. Yeah, you have to kind of get underground to survive that until you can get suit upgrades later in the game that'll allow you to survive longer. And then we also have some really cool pilotable vehicles that we're planning. And one of them is in our trailer on our Kickstarter. It's like this gigantic mech that you can get in with this.
I saw that.
this huge laser cannon. So that's sort of our tease for our pilotable vehicles. So yeah, really it's kind of like a well-worn genre, but with some new gameplay, sort of a really mysterious story that we're going to be mainly telling visually. So no text, no dialogue. Should be interesting.
Okay, very nice, man. And yeah, the gameplay, it looks absolutely amazing, and the art style. I think I complimented you guys on the art style of the game in my indie spotlight. It's very distinct, very unique. It seems like the art style it tells a story in itself, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, definitely a deep game, and you guys are putting a lot into this game. It seems it seems like for what quote unquote indie, it seems like you guys are putting some AAA flair into this thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, so Steve and I both come from sort of a long history of working in AAA. I mean, I've been working in games for 15 years. Steve's been doing it for 17 years, and you know, we worked on the BioShock games, the Borderlands, Star Wars, Uncharted, stuff like that. So, I mean, our goal with the game, and here's the thing, there are so many you guys know, there are so many indie games being made, right?
Oh yeah.
And the market is just super saturated that when we were conceiving and conceptualizing this game, not only the story and the gameplay, but just like the whole holistic plan for the whole thing, we really said, we've got to really do something special or else no one's ever going to find us. No one's going to care, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So that was our goal really from the beginning, was a really small team. So it's the the two of us plus a really incredible composer, Will Roger. Can like a really small team make a game that doesn't look like an indie game, but it looks like a real retail project that was made by a larger studio? So I'm glad to hear that. It sounds like we're heading in the right direction.
It does. It definitely looks that way. From what I've seen of the game so far, and this is just, you know, pre-alpha footage that we're looking at and things like that. So yeah, definitely you guys, in my opinion, are in the right direction. So you, Steve, and Will, Will is the composer. You and Steve are really the backbone as far as game development, art design, things like that goes. What motivated you and Steve specifically to go from AAA, to take that big risk of going from AAA to the independent scene? Can you give our viewers some insight on what motivated you guys to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have some similarities in our motivations and some differences. So what happened was, this was around, for me, in mid 2014. I had been working full-time at 2K for, it was coming up on 6 years. I'm sorry, at that time it was about 4 years. But I was working remotely for them, which is pretty unusual in the industry. So I mean, I'd been working in games since 2002. And, you know, when you work in the games industry, it's fun, right? It's rewarding. It's also really challenging.
Yeah.
It's stressful. You have to work a lot of long hours. There's a lot of like really tight deadlines. So, you know, you work in the games industry for 10 or 15 years, it can get pretty, it can sort of wear you down a little bit, or a lot, depending on what projects you've worked on. But Steve, I know, got to the point, I'm sort of speaking for him, but we've talked a lot about this. He got to the point where he was just kind of like ready to just explore some of his own ideas, his own gameplay ideas, and work in a genre of games that he really loves and just hadn't professionally been able to do, which is sort of that exploration, like Metroidvania style game.
Yeah.
So he knew that he wanted to make a game in that genre, and that was, and he had been working for about a year on like gameplay mechanics and player controls and learning how to use Unity, sort of getting up to speed on Unity. And for me, so he had been doing that for about a year. I actually started teaching. So I'm a professor at the University of Notre Dame, and I had some crossover. Yeah, I had some crossover working full time remotely for 2K, but I got hired full time teaching, and because of that, I sort of had to start doing my own creative, like academic research. So that was the point for me when I decided that I had to leave the studio development and start doing indie games. Yeah, not only to fulfill the academic stuff. So the game, so Anew is my academic research, which is sort of interesting.
Wow, really?
yeah, which is pretty awesome. But I was also like Steve, like I just started having a lot of my own creative ideas and visions for games that I thought would be cool.
Yeah.
And we were introduced, Steve and I were introduced through a mutual friend, Tom Happ, and Tom made a game called Axiom Verge.
Oh man, you said a name that I'm very familiar with. Mr. Sir Thomas Happ.
Yeah, so Tom and I actually went to grad school together. So we've known each other for a long time, and Tom also worked with Steve at a studio.
Okay.
So there was this really crazy like confluence, right? So
you guys had a trinity going.
Yeah, it was this crazy thing. So Steve, I'm sorry, this is such a long story, but
no, go ahead. This is interesting. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so
yeah, definitely. It's a small world.
It is totally a small world. So Tom was like getting all this attention with Axiom Verge back in 2014 at E3.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw him on like IGN. I'm like, holy crap, that's Tom. I can't believe it. Because he was just, he's my classmate.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I emailed him and I said, do you want to like work on a project together after you're done with Axiom Verge? And he kind of said, well, I'm going to be porting this for like a long, long time. But I have this friend, his name's Steve Copeland, and he just went indie and he's looking for a creative partner. So Tom introduced the two of us, and that was pretty much it. Steve and I just hit it off and started making the game together.
Oh my goodness! So you were this close to making Axiom Verge too.
Yeah, Tom. Tom's a special cat. He's gonna work alone for as long as he can. I mean, because he does all the art and programming and stuff. So
yeah, very talented individual.
Yeah, he was just being nice. He didn't want to just flat out tell me no. So
yeah. So he introduced you to his friend and got you hooked up that way. Yeah, that was really nice. Very very smooth with Tom right there.
Yeah, he's quite a character.
Awesome. I love that. One of the motivations was that you guys wanted to expand your creativity, like to the point where you didn't want to be stifled by another company. Like when you're working with AAA devs, and correct me if I'm wrong, but when you're working with AAA studios, you basically, unless you're the owner, you're working for somebody else's vision, right?
That's right.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly
like a 9-to-5 job, right? So like if I work at a corporation and I'm basically there, I'm keying numbers into the system, posting payments, things like that. Everything is going to, the vision of my CEO, right? It's not really my vision. I'm there just to get a check almost, right? So you guys wanted to take things into your own hands. You wanted to, because you're both artistic, you both are creative, and you guys felt like you wanted to get what's in your heart and in your mind out there, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean,
that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's right. I mean, and we both had really great experiences at the studios. I mean, some projects were tougher than others. Steve went through a canceled project. But yeah, I mean, when it sort of comes down to it, it's like, yeah, you're working on someone else's vision. And some people are happy to do that their entire career. They go in, they clock in. It's like, you got this big game to work on. You don't have to worry about doing a million different things, because when you're an indie, we're doing, like, Steve and I are both doing, like, we're like 10 employees each at a studio. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you take on like this tremendous workload and a lot of risk as an independent developer. So risk being financial risk. You have to sacrifice a lot in your personal life. You have to sacrifice a lot professionally. We've passed up lots of really well-paying full-time and freelance job offers over the past several years. So that's really hard to do, man. Like when you're self-financing an indie game, and like you get an email from someone who's working at this great company, and they're like, hey, you want to come work for us? And you're just like, I don't think I can do that. Those are hard. Those are really hard decisions to make. So
yeah.
But yeah, we're happy.
I can only imagine.
Yeah. So with that creative freedom and sort of liberty to do what you want, comes a lot of sacrifice,
Absolutely.
Well, I kind of want to go into a little bit about what you said earlier in terms of, Anew being part of your academic research and this being part of Steve's vision. How did you guys get onto the path of choosing to do a 2.5D action platformer, a Metrovania? How did you deduce that was the type of game you were going to make, and how does that kind of play into I guess the narrative of your game?
Yeah, that's a good question. Like, where did this thing come from, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder that myself. These things, like, you work on these things for so long, it's so deeply, you start to sort of lose track of how you even got where you are. Fortunately, I think I'll be able to answer your question though. So Steve loves this genre, right? Sort of that classic gameplay progression of, you have very little at the beginning, you explore, you find an item, and that allows you to progress through a part of the game world. And, you see other areas you can't get to, you can get there, but you got to find other items and equipment.
Right.
He loved that. So, and he knew that he wanted to make a game in that genre. However, he was solely, so Steve's like a game designer and a programmer. So he doesn't do any art or animation or sound design, anything like that. He's like firmly a programmer and a designer. So he knew that he wanted to make a game in that genre, but he needed a creative partner to basically write the story, do all of the work, not all of the work, do all of the artwork. Like, why don't you just do everything?
Slave driver.
Yeah, exactly. He just needed someone to do all the creative stuff, like all the visuals, all the story, and all the sound. So we started talking early on, and he's like, why don't you just pitch a couple ideas for a story and we'll go from there. And I did that. I gave him a few ideas and we just went back and forth. And he was actually thinking he wanted to do something that had more like procedurally generated content.
Right.
But when I pitched him the story idea and I started creating artwork, he liked it so much, like the direction that I was taking the vision of the game in creatively, that he just said, why don't we just go with what you're thinking? So all very, like, the art in the world is very designed. It's not procedurally generated. It's not like randomly, it's not different each time you play. It's like very handcrafted and like specifically designed so you experience it, right? So that's kind of how the thing came into being. Yeah.
And that definitely, I think, helps to resonate with what you were saying before in terms of, making sure that in this huge sea of indie games, your handcrafted work is, what is propelling it forward.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. I was just going to say something like that, because procedurally generated games, they're either a hit or a miss. Like, there's a lot of procedurally generated games, and they kind of are a little off-putting to a lot of gamers. A lot of gamers aren't really receptive to that. It really doesn't draw a lot of. There's like maybe a handful or a few that are really, really popular and people gravitate towards, and the rest kind of get like swept away. So I'm definitely glad two heads are, but definitely better than one. And you guys, decided to go, with this form or this version of the game. So yeah.
And no matter which way you go, it's pretty challenging. Like, it has its own set of challenges, like procedurally generated stuff is like, well, if it's different each time, the obvious challenges is like, how do you direct the player through your world in a way that's fun and makes sense?
Yeah.
And like, how do you tell a story? It's hard enough when you're telling a story in a game with something that's designed. Like, you're funneling a player sort of through this space.
Mm-hmm.
So it's even more challenging doing it with procedurally generated stuff. So no matter which way you go, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard to make a game. So.
Yeah. I would imagine it would have been relatively more difficult, especially with the Metroidvania type archetype of game, in terms of make sure everything was more balanced and things were not game breaking if you did a procedurally generated world.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is I've never worked on a game in this genre before, so I've had to learn a lot about it's super challenging. Like, doing the game design in this genre is really challenging if you really truly want to make it an open world game, which is what we're really striving for. Like, it's not linear, so it's really hard to lay out maps and zones and putting all the equipment and weapon upgrades in the right spot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you walk into this big space and way up high, you see this area you can get to, but you got to place the upgrade or whatever to allow you to get up there has to be in a totally other part of the world. So how do you route the player through that? It's like this crazy MC Escher maze.
So, how open is this world, Jeff? Like, I wasn't really, I didn't really know it was going to be open world. How open is it?
Yeah, and that's and another challenge is like, how do you communicate that in a trailer? You really can't.
I didn't get that in the trailer at all.
Most of that is in the descriptions on the campaign page, on text and stuff. But so yeah, how open is it? So there will be some very light loading times in the game when you're moving between like really large chunks of the world. But you'll have really long sections of play where you're really just exploring this huge space in the world, for an hour or more before there's a load, before you have to load into another large section.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's not World 1-1, World 1-2. It's like you enter the lake, and it's this gigantic space with barriers and accessibility issues within that space itself that you have to find your way through.
Wow. Interesting.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. That I'm definitely digging that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, kind of going off of what we were talking about before, I know you were the creative behind a lot of the themes and the art behind Anew, but something that I resonated with while going through and researching was the music, specifically Angel of Order.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
What I really took from that was, the player, it almost feels like through that audio track, the player is under a sense of urgency. And what, what I kind of want to gather from that is, how do you score, the orchestral score you kind of went with, how do you anticipate that working with the player?
Right. Yeah, that track is not a very comforting piece of music. Yeah. Danger. Yeah,
exactly.
So the scoring process, I mean, honestly, I've never been deeply involved in the music direction of a game. So, I mean, I understand how the process works, and I knew what I wanted tonally with the music, sort of emotionally.
Right.
But yeah, Will is an insanely talented composer, and he's a really nice guy and really easy to work with. And he's worked on some amazing projects himself, scoring some really huge games. So kind of like the way our working relationship is when I was first looking for a composer, when Steve and I were sort of like, let's really invest in music in this game, because it's really gonna make the game feel special and sort of like really make the player feel something emotionally. I kind of just like put together a list of my 5 or 6 favorite composers in games, and I just emailed all of them just out of the blue, and heard back from quite a few. Will was one of them, and we just had conversations about the type of music that we like, and I kind of told him the types of orchestral composers that I really love and that I think would help to sort of set the mood in our world. And he loved all those composers, so we sort of had a mind meld early on, as far as what we both like in music, and we went from there. And so the way that we work basically is Steve and I will start basically hashing out a new large section of the game. So Steve will sort of rough in the layout of the level very roughly, and then I'll go in and start designing the look of it. So I'll take what Steve has and start making it pretty with textures and lighting and visual effects. And as soon as I have a first pass on the look of a section of the game, I will send screenshots and or like video capture to Will, and we'll just have a conversation, and I'll say, okay, Will, this is what's happening in this part of the game. Like, these are the story beats. This is like the types of gameplay you'll be doing and sort of the look of the space. Are there any big dramatic moments, like you'll walk into an area and the camera sort of pulls back to reveal this awe-inspiring view or something? So I'll give that visual reference to Will, and then I just encourage him to go off and just write, to basically compose 1 or 2 concept pieces for that space in the game. So I just encourage him to be as creative as possible and just as unique as he can be with his music. And he loves that, because that's a very rare opportunity for composers to have time to actually think about what they're doing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was going to say that. I mean, I can only imagine how complicated this process is, especially from, piecing together different tracks solely based on, a concept, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
having that creative freedom, I imagine, is really freeing.
It is, and he's having a good time with it. So yeah, so he writes a concept and sends it back, and I'm like, that sounds great, or try changing this just to get the tone of the setting feeling right. And then will go away and do other things, and then once we get that section of the game polished and like the gameplay is really good, all the combat's good, all the exploration feels good, we'll actually put his music into the game and see how it feels as far as the tempo and the pacing and the mood. And if it feels good, it'll go in, and if it needs to be tweaked for whatever reason, we'll work on it and send another revision back. But the music in our game is going to have a very sort of organic feel. So it's not going to be like, Mega Man, where it's just that 2-minute piece is looping all the time, Yeah, like the Bubble Man theme or whatever. So the music is a little bit more reactive in ours. So like you enter a space, and music that feels whatever emotion we want to elicit in that space, the music will sort of fade in and start playing. And then when you leave that space and enter another space, potentially another piece of music will play that it's like a film score. It's like a dynamic film score is how we're approaching it. So yeah, it's a lot of work, and we're hoping it feels like it helps to make our world feel real,
Yeah, you guys are putting a lot of work, so you guys literally have no time for any play or fun or anything right now. You guys are gonna celebrate. I think you guys are gonna like party a little too hard when this game is finished.
Yeah. Well, I have kids. So they sort of keep me in order. Like I have to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning every day, so I can't.
Okay.
I can't party too hard.
Yeah, you can't party hard with kids. That's,
no, not anymore.
Sure. They don't allow it.
No, they don't.
They are. Never mind. I'm not going to say what they are.
I love my children.
Yes. We all do.
We all do.
So we have a celebration tonight because the Kickstarter for Anew actually is a success. A few days early, correct? So definitely congratulations to you, Steve, Will, Resonator Games as a whole. Also shout out to the community for really backing this game. I'm just gonna be honest, I was a little worried there for a minute because these Kickstarters, they can go, either way. You can get close to your goal and not even, reach it in the last few days. But apparently you guys knocked it out the park. The community is really, responding well to this game from what I'm seeing and hearing out there. And obviously people putting their money into it, they're interested, right? So first, how does it make you guys feel that the Kickstarter campaign was a success a few days early? Whopping success at that.
Well, I mean, we're thrilled. We're way more nervous than you are, I promise. I mean, the funny thing is like when an independent game developer puts a Kickstarter up, we're not just like leaning back in our chairs, with our arms behind our head,
right.
Watching the dollar signs go up or whatever. I mean, we're working. It is like more than a full-time job supporting this thing.
Yeah.
And just trying to get people to see it. That's like their huge challenge. Is again, there's just so many games being made. It's like, how do you get people and press to just give you 5 minutes to look at your game? But yeah, we're super happy. We're really tired. We're just pretty exhausted, but we are very happy and extremely grateful for the support. I mean, it's really humbling when you put something up and people just start giving you their money.
Yeah,
like that's a huge response. We feel like very responsible to all of these great people to give them something really special. So to first of all, to finish the game, because there's a lot of games on Kickstarter that make hundreds of thousands of dollars and never get finished.
And that's what gives it a bad reputation, right there.
Yeah. Yep. So we that's our primary goal, is to just like making this amazing game in a reasonable amount of time, so you guys don't have to wait 3 years, 4 years, which happens a lot too. And then just give you something for your money, something really great.
So knowing the risk and everything like that, besides the obvious reason, what made you guys put it on Kickstarter? I mean, a little detail of what was the real reason here?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so we investigated sort of all of our options for financing. So up until now, I mean, we're still primarily self-financed to making this game. But we looked at Fig, we looked at Kickstarter. We've before we did the Kickstarter over a year ago, when we put our first trailer up, we started getting approached by a few publishers, PR people. So we had all sorts of options, which is always good. But really, the publishers are all really nice people. Some of them we actually know personally. We really wanted to just give it a go and try and retain, obviously, as much of the ownership of our game and our profits.
Yeah, that was the whole point, right?
Our theoretical profits, because we haven't really, we haven't shipped the game yet.
Yeah.
But we want to try and retain as much of that as we can, of course.
Yes.
So we have had conversations with publishers. We're sort of that's all in a holding pattern right now, because we wanted to see how the Kickstarter would do. But yeah, the reason specifically why we chose Kickstarter, for one, there's a lot of games go to Kickstarter, so it's a pretty well-established platform. There's a pretty large audience of people that go to Kickstarter looking for cool new stuff. So that's good. The other thing is there's no Kickstarter takes a cut of the amount of money that we raise, but there's no equity involved, right? So the backers that back our project are donating money, and then we will, when we ship the game, give them something, and that's sort of where it ends. But they don't get like a percentage of net revenue or anything like that.
Right.
And so there's a lot of very complicated issues that go into all that stuff, splitting ownership. I think like the real reason why we did Kickstarter is it's a really great way to build an audience and to interface with people that are interested in your product directly. So we've gotten great feedback. We've had really good conversations with people, and it sort of will continue on, and we value that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely seems like folks have resonated with your product. I mean,
no pun intended.
I mean, clearly, since the Kickstarter was fulfilled and now you've got, in place. So with that said, in terms of stretch goals and some of the other rewards through Kickstarter, I know that certain platforms are possible in terms of, going onto multi-platforms, but I know you're starting off on PC first. Do you have a plan on bringing Anew to other platforms, and, just in general, how that rollout will work?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so because it's just the two of us making the game, we're really 100% focused on PC, launching on PC. So we were actually running a Steam Greenlight campaign concurrently, but that fortunately we got greenlit really fast, like in less than 2 weeks. So that's really good. So we're in the Steam pipeline. So that's definitely a platform we'll be pursuing for launch. DRM free stuff like Humble Bundle, all of the sort of well-worn just PC distribution channels. But what I was trying to say is, because it's just the two of us, there's no way we can like simultaneously launch on console and PC.
Yeah,
it's just it's so hard just to get one version of the game done with a small team. So definitely PC first. And we've already committed to Xbox One and PS4.
Okay.
So we actually have relationships in place with Sony and Microsoft, with both of the platform holders. So they're interested in our game. We've talked to them, and we're pretty much, whenever we're ready, we're ready to roll with them.
Okay, so it's green lit over there. So Mike Sony said, "Bring it on over."
Yep, they're ready. They're ready for us.
That is good to hear.
And we're sort of holding them back too a little bit, because we just told them that we're just totally honest with them, and we said we can't do all of this at the same time, so we just want to get the PC version done first.
Yeah,
and they both seem totally fine with that situation, and it's really common with indies now to do that, right? So PC, Xbox One, PS4. We're also going to be going to Mac and Linux.
Okay.
The Linux folks are like this really vocal minority. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Yeah, they are.
To a degree, yeah.
There's like this really small subsection of people, you know, like when we first announced the game, like the first comments on message boards were, are you coming to Linux, damn it? Like, we're still Linux port.
Like we have no, that's messed up.
And so we are gonna keep those people at bay with like their flaming torches and whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all you can do.
Yeah, exactly. We just want to like get through with our lives, you know, with these people. I'm just kidding. So yeah, those are the main ones that we're committing to now.
Okay.
And we have a stretch. We do have a stretch goal, and a big part of that is what we're sort of calling. It's like this really technical sounding thing, but we're calling it Nintendo Switch feasibility research.
Nintendo Switch feasibility research.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we would love to go to the Switch.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's a very complicated thing to port to, because it really is a mobile platform.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So anytime you're going from designing a game for PCs and really high-end consoles to mobile, a ton of research has to go into that, as far as like optimizing all of the art, all of the lighting, all of the VFX, like CPU usage, right?
Yeah.
There isn't a button that you can just press that's called, you know, switch, you know?
Yeah.
And like a day later, it's running at 60 frames per second at 1080p.
Right.
So as a part of our stretch goal, we're basically saying if we can hit this stretch goal, we're going to start the whole process going with Nintendo. So we're going to apply for their developer program. We're going to buy dev kits, and we're really going to focus on figuring out how to make our game work on that platform.
And that's much later down the line, right?
And that's going to be later down the line after we've got the PC launch and we're starting to work on console stuff.
Okay.
And Steve and I talked a lot about this. We felt it was really irresponsible for us to just go out and say, we're doing a stretch goal. We're coming to the Nintendo Switch. Like, here's a backer tier for $30. Pre-order your Switch version now. Like, any developer that's doing that on Kickstarter right now is either lying to your face or completely delusional about what. I'm not trying to like speak badly of anybody, but anybody that says that, like, with that much authority, unless they're in the developer program, they have no idea.
Right. And there's only a few,
right.
From what I understand, there's only a few developers, publishers, independent wise, that are in that program, because from what I hear, Nintendo's being very selective of which, you know, publishers, developers they work with on the independent side of things right now. So yeah, you're right. If people are out there boasting that, especially on Kickstarter, they're out there boasting that, they're most likely lying or have some very high hopes, because Nintendo's being very strict right now, understandably so. They want nothing but, you know, really
super
high quality, you know, independent games and games in general on their platform. So I can respect that, but the backers go to
Kickstarter and like, this game looks awesome. Oh, they're gonna take it to the Switch. Yeah, I'll give you $50. Like, the normal gamers don't realize what it takes and how much it costs to do that type of work. So, but anyway, that's why we worded it. It's not a very sexy description, but like we're trying to be responsible towards the people that are giving us their money.
That's good. We do appreciate that. The consumers, on behalf of the consumers everywhere, we definitely appreciate that type of honesty for sure.
Yeah, no problem. So that's a big part of the stretch goal. And then we have a long list of all sorts of new content, like new modes, new parts of the world, new bosses, all sorts of stuff that we want to add to the core game experience.
So how long this game is going to be, Jeff? How many hours can we expect to be in the world?
5,000-hour game.
Oh my goodness! My life is over.
It's going to be a big game. I mean, we're still building it. We still have a ton of content to make, so we can't really say hours wise, but we're pretty confident in saying like a real full playthrough will be at least 20 hours, probably. Okay. So again, that sort of ties into our, like, we want to make it feel like a retail studio game, not a 3-hour.
So we're looking at a possibly 20-hour campaign, maybe a little longer if you really go after all the collectibles and things like that, right? Yeah. And then also, is the game going to be around $20, you think? when it comes to Steam and these consoles?
Yeah, we haven't set our retail price yet. That's like a whole other very complicated issue that has to get figured out later on. But what we are telling people is like the pricing that we have on our Kickstarter is a discounted price.
Yeah, I saw that.
So like you can get the PC version for $19. You can get the console version for $24.
Okay.
And the $24 tier actually comes with the PC and the digital PC and a digital console version. So that sort of gives you an idea of what our early thoughts are on pricing. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And when it comes to indie games, the reason why I asked that, when it comes to indie games, independent games, a lot of gamers, they kind of are very weary sometimes about paying what they consider too much for an indie game because people put this weird they have this weird idea of what an indie game is. A lot of people just think that indie games are just these small projects that it's really, you can run through really fast. There's not really any extensive deep content in it. There's not a deep story. You know, they really associate indie games with needing to be maybe $10 or less, right? So, you know, having to sell people on, okay, this is an indie game, but it's worth $30. It's worth $40.
Right.
You know, it can be pretty, you know, challenging, you know, right? Do you agree? So that's why I asked about the price, what you guys were kind of thinking, because I know you guys had to be kind of thinking about all of that, you know, to make sure that this game is appealing, you know, to as many gamers as possible.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we're aware of expectations, like for the type of game that we're making, expectations as far as length and price. So we're totally aware of it. And we're, I think we're going to give gamers like a really, really polished, professional, like fun experience for the money. So
this is going to be the AAA indie.
This is it, baby.
I think that's how
we're trying. I mean, you know, I'm not making any promises, but we're doing the best we can.
Awesome. So what's the expected release window for this game, Jeff? Like, not a release date, but can we get a release window?
Yeah, you know, one of these days I'm going to be able to say Resonator does not comment on rumor and speculation. You remember? I don't know if you guys remember, like when the 360 was coming out. You remember how Microsoft used to say that all the time?
Oh yeah, yep.
Do you remember that? So
Yep.
I know that doesn't really actually make sense in this context, but one day, damn it, I'm gonna say that. We're really trying hard to have the PC version. So basically, our initial launch next summer. Next summer is what we're shooting for.
Summer 2018.
Summer 2018. Yeah. I mean, because, you know, we're not making any money. Steve hasn't had a paycheck in like 3 years. Because he's just, you know, I have a salary that I'm making teaching, but he's completely like self-financed, living off of savings. So, so, you know, you can only do that for so long before there's like a practical, you know, there's just some practicalities that you run up against, like paying rent and stuff. Yeah,
there's big sacrifice when you're going after your dreams, you know. And I think that people, you know, a lot of gamers, I mean, we're consumers and stuff. We just want to spend money on a product. We just want to have fun, you know, most times, most of us do. But, you know, I think a lot of gamers, they really need to dive deep and see what it takes sometimes to make these games, what sacrifices are made to put these games out there that we enjoy and we love so much, you know. And I think people will definitely respect, you know, the developers and the game itself a little more, you know, if they see the heart that's really been put into it. And that's really why I resonate well, pun intended, I resonate well with independent games, indie games, is because there's so much more heart. There's so much more blood, sweat, and tears in these games. It doesn't feel like it's just systematic, right? It doesn't feel like it's a formula, right? It feels like someone really has quit their job and spent 3 years really making this game, you know, really putting everything into it. And a lot of indie games, the great ones, you really do feel that while you're playing, you know. So
and what you're doing, like with your podcast and your website, is great because you're helping to raise awareness and you're letting people know that these are real human beings with feelings and families and children and jobs. You know, like we're just like you. We're not machines that we're inputting data into and then a game comes out the other end, you know?
Right.
But at the same time, though, we also realize that you guys, consumers don't really care, and they shouldn't necessarily care about the story of the game, right? Or like who's making it, because you guys are buying something.
Right.
So we want to give you a really good product, and we realize that if you do care that we are human beings and you have some empathy, that's great. But like we realize that 90% of people don't realize that. They just go to Steam and they're like, that game looks cool.
Yep.
And I'm going to play it, and if it sucks, I'm going to say that in the review.
Yep.
So we get
Precisely.
Yeah.
It's a balance. It's a healthy, sometimes unhealthy balance that we got going on in the gaming community. So we're gonna go ahead and start wrapping up, putting out our closing remarks and everything like that. So, Jeff, do you want to say anything impactful here at the end for our viewers that will make them, really get on board with this wonderful project we call Anew, the Distant Light?
Yeah, I mean, really, we just want people to head over to our Kickstarter and just take a look at what we're doing. That's the huge challenge, is just getting eyes on our project. And the great thing is that the people that do actually find us and see us pretty much always get really excited about what we're doing. So I just want to encourage your listeners to check us out on Kickstarter. Take a look at our trailer and some of the artwork and gameplay. And, if you like it and you want to help support us towards making something that we think is going to be really special, we would really appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. And if you can't, that's fine too. But just knowing that you'll take a couple minutes to go and see what we've been working so hard on would be really appreciated.
Absolutely. And the link to the Kickstarter will be in the description, as well as the indie spotlight that we did. We had an interview with Jeff. So, we kind of know Jeff a little bit now.
Yeah, we go way back.
We go way back, a few months back.
You guys were actually one of the first sites to cover us.
Awesome.
It was a while ago. It's been I think a year at least.
It actually has. Time's gone by so fast, but it really has been like a year.
Yeah, so we appreciate that too.
Awesome. So I'll put that in the description as well, in case you guys want to check that out, and some trailers, some gameplay, and things like that as well. Because Resonator Games does have a YouTube channel that you guys can go over and subscribe to as well, and get they have a couple of developer diaries. They have an interview, or not an interview, but kind of like a collab with Jeff and Will on there as well, talking about the music and the level design, the character design, things like that. Videos on that. So I'll definitely put the link to the channel Resonator Games in the description as well for you guys. But yeah, definitely, Jeff, it has been a pleasure having you on with us. Thank you so much for coming and talking with us tonight. Absolutely.
Likewise, Nick and Kevin, thank you. It was fun.
Definitely. Thanks for coming out, Jeff.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Awesome. So this has been On the Red Carpet. This is Nicodemus. This is Kevin. This is Jeff from Resonator Games. We are signing off. Make sure you guys go to tickgn.com. That's TICGN.com for all your gaming related news, entertainment. We have a plethora of exciting things over there. So make sure you guys check us out, and also subscribe to this channel right here. This is the Inner Circle, where you can check up on the latest and greatest in gaming and all of our great podcasts, such as the Trophy Life podcast, the Multiverse Show, and the main podcast, which is the Tick podcast that you all love so much. And that's all we got to say for tonight. Make sure you guys be on the lookout for Anew, the Distant Light. Definitely a wonderful looking game. You guys definitely need to be hyped about it. Join the bandwagon. Go ahead and jump on it. Go ahead and jump on this bandwagon, y'all. All right, man. We are out of here. Thanks so much for listening and watching. Peace.